When the devil came, he was not red. He was chrome, 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 and he said, come with me. Come, come, come with me. You must go.
Welcome to the Hell is Chrome podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Dyer. What's up? Thank you, everyone, for joining us once again on a lovely Tuesday evening in San Diego. You are now on the live stream or in the future on your podcasting app, listening/watching the longest running supporters podcast in San Diego. Something we are proud of more and more with each passing day, and look to continue well into the future. A future that, well, one, of course, involves San Diego Football Club, but perhaps maybe a little bit different version of the Locals, to help me digest and to help you understand what the hell I'm talking about. I am proud to introduce our producer, John Cross. John, how the hell are you, man?
I am doing very well, Andrew. How are you? You looking awfully dapper tonight in a jacket and everything this evening. What's going on with that?
Well, I was in court earlier, which is not really related, but I also had an awards banquet this evening at my kid's high school. I got to say, I got a lot of, issues with the kid. He's my kid. He's a great kid. Doesn't like to comb his hair. Doesn't like to take the dog outside. It's fine. He's 16, doesn't have a license yet. I'm still driving him everywhere. A lot of things. There's layers to this, but he is also finishing up his sophomore year of high school. And, he's been in this dual immersion language program since kindergarten, all through elementary school. His classes were in Spanish and English. Middle school, he wasn't able to take other electives, right? Because of this program. He couldn't be in band. He couldn't follow in my footsteps and play the saxophone or play a drum. So there were sacrifices. But in high school, was able to skip a year of Spanish in middle school. And that meant as a freshman, he was able to take AP Spanish. And this year he took AP Spanish Literature. And that means he's basically done. Like, that is the highest you can go in Spanish in high school, at least in the Sweetwater Unified District, whatever. So he's kind of done with his Spanish classes. And like the last three of these classes were like college level classes anyway. So he's probably already done with his college Spanish too, assuming they give him credit. So I am proud of him. There was an awards thing. They gave him a medal for finishing the language immersion program. So really proud of him. He is able to talk shit about me behind my back, and I really just don't know that. So an incredibly powerful like weapon. Like if you were like
Yes.
like as far as a teenager superpower, like I can't think of many more other than like some kind of apparatus in your room, a la Ferris Bueller, that makes your parents think you're there when you're not. Other than that, being able to speak in a language your parents don't know, I mean, that's got to be one of the greater like powers to have as a teenager. So really well done on his part. So
Congratulations.
Pretty cool for him. I was, and I'm sorry to just ramble on because, I'm always in such a hurry to get home to do this stream. There's he has soccer practice, or in this instance, he had the ceremony, but I had to stop at Vaughn's on the way home. Now you might be saying to yourself, who can afford to shop at Vaughn's, right? Like these grocery stores, man, they're insane. Right. And the thing about it, like a store like Vaughn's, they really make you work for it. Like you don't just go into Vaughn's and like grab what you need, check out and go. Like that is like noob shit. You do not do that. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
The yellow tags, right? So they're duplicitous. That's what they are, right? So they have the yellow tag program, right? But they also have an app. And I feel like there may be some ADA compliance issues with this app because I don't know how visually impaired people would, whole other discussion. But there's an app, and you put the app on your phone, and there'll be like a low price on a white tag. Now this is not the yellow tag. That's, you put your phone number in. That's your member card, whatever, for the yellow tag. The
Right.
white tag, now that's the app. So if you want to shop at Vaughn's and like get, the best prices on these items, or in the case of the white tag, the price that's shown on the shelf, because you have to scan the fucking barcode and put it in your little app shopping bag, clipped coupon, and then that, when you put in your phone number, that is how it, completely asinine system. They really, really make you work for it. And today, and now I had thought I'd figured all of this out, right? Like, I got this shit figured out. I got the yellow tag, got my number, I got my app, I got my scanner. But then there's another layer to it. There's another layer to this. And do you know the layer I'm talking about?
I do not.
Okay. So if you read the fine print on some of these yellow tags, it says like special, like $1.99, must buy 9, right? Like you have to buy an extraordinary amount. Like they have the sociables crackers, like you would use it for like
Right.
your charcuterie, whatever, you're going to put cheese on the sociables. They do this with sociables. Okay. I'm just using this as an example. I was not buying sociables today, but they had a thing. Sociables, it's like for something, it's ridiculously expensive for a box of crackers. But every now and then they put the yellow tag on it and they're $1.99. But you got to buy 4 fucking boxes. Have you ever needed 4 boxes of crackers like at one visit?
Once.
It's insane. So like if you're not paying attention, you may not get the right quantity and then not qualify for the lower price. But they also, and this is new. I think this is new because I haven't run into this before. So they play a lot of fucky games with the Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And I'm specifically calling out the Ben and Jerry's because they do this every week. They play games with the Ben and Jerry's, right? Like one week, it's $5.99 for Ben and Jerry's, no special. The next week, it's like 2 for $5, right? The next week, back to $6. Then the next week, it's like 3 and some change, right? So this week, I think it's 3 and some change. I'm like, okay, I know they got the special on the B&J's. I'm going to drop in there after this awards thing, get my kid some ice cream because he just freaking did this thing, right? I go to check out and it does not give me the lower price for the Ben & Jerry's. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I asked the person, I'm at self-checkout, I got to bring somebody over there. I'm like, it did not give me the yellow tag price for the B&J's. And she says, oh, did you already buy some with your phone number? And I said, son of a bitch. Well, you're goddamn right I did. I bought it like last Thursday. So now they are rate limiting your Vaughn's loyalty account to only being able to take advantage of the yellow tag price one time. So I had to void the item and then go back in and use a different phone number to get, I got the V&J's, right? I got the Ben & Jerry's. We're all good. Got some chocolate therapy going on. It's good. But like, holy shit, like it was a whole like mental exercise going to the store and buying like 4 things because I'm constantly like what's the scene in with the guy with the beard, the actor, and all the numbers are moving. Is that one of the hungover movies where it's like contemplating? Like that's
I don't
me.
remember. Yeah.
Anyway, that's me in Vaughn's trying to save like $2 on 2 pints of ice cream. And I was like, oh my, like, I had a headache. I was like, my heart was pumping. I was like feeling like all of this pressure. But I still ain't going to fucking Walmart. Like, still am not getting groceries at Walmart. My wife goes there, gets the groceries there. That's fine. I ain't doing it. I'll play your games, Mr. Vaughn's, Mr. Albertson, or is it still the same company? Who knows? Now, I did go into a Pavilions once recently. I didn't know that Pavilions was a thing. You know about Pavilions?
I'm aware of it. Yes, I haven't shopped in one.
It's a Vaughn's, but like I think they just like buff the floor a little nicer, so the wax is a little shinier. They have more pricey wines and stuff, but it's the same thing at Pavilions. And I went to one in Carmel Valley, and I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here, Mr. Vaughn's. Carmel Valley gets the Pavilions, right? And lowly old Otay Ranch is, and like everyone else, is just gets the straight up
Just
Vaughn's.
Vons.
Anyway, I know this is not what people tune into the show for. I apologize. Just had to get this out of the way because it's just it just happened, and I'm just over here like stewing in this great injustice of my Vaughn's card being rejected for the ice cream. So that was my.
You have reinforced the reason, or my staying away from regular grocery stores. I hardly ever shop in one. And you have not enticed me to go back. So I guess thank you for that.
And it's dude, I'm like, look at me, dude. Like, I'm there with like my phone and like my little basket, and I'm like, oh, get my coupon. Like, it's ridiculous. It really has, changed the way that I interact with the marketplace of the grocery market. So anyway, soccer. Let's talk a little bit about SDFC and the locals. We did have another Chrome Ball event this weekend in Vista. Did you
go?
make it out?
Oh, you were going to ask me, weren't you?
I actually did go, kind of. I showed up right when it started and helped unload Steve's truck, and then had to leave. So, but I was there for the important part of like helping carry stuff. So I did not just stand around.
You got to get things set up.
Help carry stuff, man. Yeah. Obviously a much smaller event than what was it, Chula Vista. We can't expect them to do that every single month, every single Chrome Ball. So I don't know how everything went. I did see some pictures on social from the tournaments. Now these tournaments look like a lot of fun. I feel like that's something that, if nothing else, if you're not having a block party, like those little tournaments, I would imagine are bringing people out to watch those, the families and all of that.
You got a lot of people playing and families coming to watch. Yeah, this was the first one I think I missed. I guess I technically missed the Escondido one, but that was our AGM as well on that day. But this was the first one I've missed since then, and I had to get my COVID booster, so that the appointment I got was middle of the day on Saturday, and I don't do as well as maybe most people with those, so it was not a super enjoyable Memorial
So is this
a
new batch?
It was good to have the days.
Is this that new shit on the streets? How's the new one?
Well, no, not newer than, if you've had anything in the last year, it's the same batch. It's basically the 23-24 batch. But for me in my situation, I had to go get my COVID booster, so that kind of laid me up for most of the weekend this weekend.
Oh man, that's too bad. I really enjoyed. Well, I can't say I enjoyed it, but during the most of the pandemic, once the booster was available, like it always made me just sick enough to where like I couldn't work, and like at the time, because we were under this health emergency, the company that I worked for, it was like a free day off if you had COVID, or if you had just gotten a booster and you needed the sick day. It didn't count against your sick time. So like every time I got that booster, it's like, yo, but it really did lay me up. I'm not saying that I was,
Yeah.
malingering or anything, but it was one of those like little like fringe benefits. Like at least this doesn't
You
count
get the
against my
extra day.
sick time. Yeah, yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
But then Newsom canceled the health emergency, and now we're back to using our sick time
Right.
to get
Well,
the booster.
that's also why it was planned for a weekend, just to help out with that. So it kind of messed up any plans I might have had for Memorial Day weekend, but I had to get it done. So
Yeah, it was. These long weekends, they just make you wish that every weekend was a long weekend. It's really like not fair. I haven't felt right all day. Like we have a podcast on Tuesday nights, and it just felt very weird.
right.
I had to keep reminding myself like it's Tuesday. We got the pod. So,
Yeah.
but we got through it. So, offhand, I know we didn't prepare the rundown, but what is the next Chrome Ball? Do you have that in front of you by any chance?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can look it up while you, if there's something else you want to kind of transition to, but I can take a look real quick.
Sure. Well, am seeing a lot more rumors online about SDFC. Um, I can't say any of them are more or less credible than the others that we've seen. But, even in just a week, like every day that ticks by, like this team being here and playing, football is like more and more a reality, and more and more
Right.
it is something that is about to happen. And this summer, I don't know, I can just it's like it's like in the air, like you can kind of feel it, like smell it, like something is coming this summer. Like we are going to have stuff. It's player signings, front office, coaches, like this stuff
Right.
is coming this summer. And I think, you know, I don't know who they're going to sign. People are Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, not that I'm opposed to it because he is like the best midfielder in the world, but like, is the best midfielder in the world trying to come play in MLS? Like, I don't know. He is getting up there, I guess. They have
Yeah.
these weird career, ages where they hit certain ages, and it's like now it's time to go play in MLS. So I don't know. That rumor is that's probably my favorite one. Is the De Bruyne rumor more than the Mo Salah rumor that was like I think from a year ago.
Right. And I think only because of the Egyptian connection. I don't think there was ever any serious legs around that.
Come on.
Um, but maybe. But I don't. I'm the wrong person for these kind of things because I I don't care what players we sign. I know that probably sounds terrible to a lot of people, but I have no control over it. So it's always entertaining to see what rumors fly around and how people react to those rumors or possibly overreact to those rumors. But I can never get too excited. I'm happy when I see a concrete signing because then it's a player, right? I really, for the most part, I don't care who it is. Again, I think I feel that way because I have absolutely no control over it. So my personality is just, it seems silly to speculate. Um, so maybe I miss out on the fun of all those conversations, but I know a lot of people love the you know every possible thing that could happen. And it sounds like we're probably going to have so many stars over the summer transfer window linked to San Diego just because,
Well,
right?
think
It
about
just
you think about like the physics of a vacuum, right? Like if you have a container and it's a vacuum, as soon as you break that seal, what does it do? It sucks everything outside into it, right? So we
right.
have an information vacuum right now.
Yes.
There's no games, there's nothing really to talk about football wise. So anything, anything that gets floated on Twitter
Sure.
just immediately becomes
Gonna
a thing to
get a
talk
lot of
about.
traffic. Yeah.
So yeah, and so I think that in that way it's fun just that it gives us something to talk about, even if it's just to talk about how ridiculous it is. Without the football, it's kind of tough to go, very much into what we might otherwise. But that being said, there are things happening this summer, not specific to SDFC, but perhaps with the locals itself, right? As an organization, um, can you talk a little bit about what sorts of changes may be ahead with the locals as far as like what's coming up in leadership discussions, kind of things that are being floated? What do our members need to know about what's going on?
Well, wow, there's a weighted question right there. Let's see how to answer this. We have, I would say, as the alliance starts to get some legs under it, and that starts becoming more of a thing. It starts rounding out whatever the team is going to look like to help in terms of organization for the alliance beyond just the supporter group alliance council. As that starts to take shape, I expect most people will start to see some transitioning things that will happen over the summer, right? As the locals start to make their transition to be part of this union for 2025. So you'll, I would imagine, start seeing some changes in some of the structural things we do, or at least the way we've been doing it for a few years, as all these 7 SGs and more, because there's going to be more than these 7. There's already at least one kind of waiting in the wings right now. Um, as all these SGs come together and kind of fall under this umbrella so that we can stand shoulder to shoulder on match days with one voice, then we will start seeing some changes in how we operate. What those are exactly and how those changes happen and when those changes happen are kind of up in the air, but I would expect you would start seeing some changes very soon, some things, or start hearing about some potential changes very soon, and other little things kind of off and on over the next, I don't know, 6 weeks to 2 months, probably.
So we've had some people leave the leadership council. This is, of course, the elected body that governs the locals. There are 15 council positions. I don't know if we talked about the 2 resignations on the last show or not, but we're down to leadership council members. We had a third member resign today, and potentially another resignation to come. Um, the governing structure of the locals with these 15 leadership council positions, is that subject to change?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is subject to change depending how we are going to transition and move again into this alliance and take our space within there. Um, exactly, though, how that changes is up to us to decide as a supporter group. Really, I mean, we are a member-run supporter group. The members have a voice and a say, because that's how it should be as a member-run group, in how this transition um, looks and feels
Mhm.
as we move from a
So,
purely independent supporter group like we were before, and a very informal situation when we were in 109, to now a more formal, organized union structure for SDFC.
so let me just kind of uh, translate some of this for the audience here. You're talking about the locals right now is structured as a, or it was designed as a 501c something, right? A mutual benefit
7, right?
corporation, right? Um, we we have been told we can no longer operate as that type of organization, correct?
Well, I mean, to be clear, it's not that we can't. I mean, we can stay doing the same thing, but the structure of the alliance, the union, as it's currently moving forward, and the pathway of dealing with SDFC, especially in terms of ticketing blocks and other things, and from some tax advice that we received in leadership last night, actually, for those of us who were on the meeting, it's it would be a challenge for the locals to maintain its current mutual benefit status and be kind of under the umbrella of another California mutual benefit corporation.
It's
So
like an
that is,
Ouroboros or whatever, like you
yeah,
can't
it
have
would,
a supporter
I,
group
you know,
centipede, like a human.
right.
Maybe
So,
that's the wrong analogy. I'm sorry. I always go to the worst place
right.
in my analogies. My apologies to everybody. Please continue.
But because, you know, and again, that was part of the reason we had this meeting last night, was to get some guidance on what that would look like and what our options are as the locals. And I'm sure our members will be hearing more about these things coming up in more detail over,
Well, I
I
think a lot of
imagine, the
them
next few weeks.
might be surprised to hear this because I don't think members are aware of some of these things, because you mentioned being a member-run organization. But my kind of concern is that how can we trust members to run the organization if they are not armed with the facts?
With the knowledge, right? And that is, I think, incumbent upon leadership to make sure that gets properly communicated
Well, you're a
as we
member of
start
leadership.
moving forward.
I'm a member of leadership. I think these are things
Yeah.
that we can communicate on this platform, this communication platform that we have. What are the options under consideration for the locals by its leadership right now?
I would say the one option, if we go the extremes, and then we'll kind of fill in the details in the middle, the extremes would be stay the course, do exactly what we have been doing for the last 4, almost 5 years, since the fall of 2019. But the potential problem with that, because of the having a California Mutual Benefit Corporation kind of mixed in with another California Mutual Benefit Corporation, so us and then the alliance, creates some potential legal issues that we'd probably have to consult an attorney to work out to see if those even could be worked out. And the, I guess, depending on your viewpoint on this, the worst case scenario would be the locals are locked out, may be a harsh word, but kind of locked out of the alliance if those things can't be worked out. If we choose to stay as a California Mutual Benefit Corporation and do that,
What would
then
it
they would
take?
be.
What would it take to be a California Mutual Benefit Corporation in good standing? What are we looking at in order to do that? Because if I'm a member and I don't know anything, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, why don't we just do that? What's the problem?
Well, if we stay our own course, I mean,
Yeah.
the one problem, if we look at it in terms of the alliance and SDFC, we potentially get excluded from the supporter section, right? So there's that part of it, because that's part of the agreement of this union and alliance, is all these supporter groups are coming together. And I would say most of the other supporter groups are on the same page of incorporating as a single entity rather than individual entities. And then the supporter groups are under that umbrella. So that would be the the one big thing that potentially, if we would stay our own course, then we might not be able to be. Depends how you define the alliance, but we may not get the same benefits as everybody else out of the alliance, because
Well, I
we'd
always
kind of
think
be
that
on our own.
my assumption would be a lot of our members are members of the locals because they want to be part of the supporter section. So, what my question to myself even would be, why would I stay a member of the supporter group if we're not in the supporter section. That's the whole point of being in a supporter group, right?
Well, I think right, because that was one option. So I mean, we probably should look at some of the other options as well. But yes, I mean that would be one option. We could stay the course and just see where it takes us, right? Um, and if you said, as you said, what are some of the things being considered by members? I would say that's probably an option that is being considered. We can, I mean, the exact opposite extreme end of that is get rid of the locals altogether, right? I just no more locals, and people, if they want to be part of the alliance, could go join a different group, like for 2025, right? Because we've already kind of in 2024 and people have done their 2024 memberships. So, all this stuff we're talking about is looking ahead to 2025. So, I mean, that would be one option is no more locals if um, people don't like the options that are being presented to them as part of the alliance. Now,
Huh.
within those in between, there are we could be like the other SGs. We could dissolve our California Mutual Benefit Corporation and then come under the umbrella of the union itself, still as the locals, still with our branding, still with everything else, but now have the California Mutual Benefit part, the legal and fiscal responsibilities be handled by the union for everyone, all SGs together, as opposed to us doing it individually for ourselves.
So sitting here listening to you describe this for a supporter group that is committed to supporting SDFC from the first kick as part of the supporter section, why right now isn't that option uh, the no-brainer option? What is going on to where there would even be a conflict here?
Well, I think that would be a good conversation, maybe, to have some people on the podcast and ask them. Um, I've kind of given the range of things. I think, and this is my opinion on it, I think there are more people who see that kind of middle option as the no-brainer option. Um, but that certainly, I think it's also fair to say, is not representative of
Well,
everyone in
I
leadership.
think that our members should know that there is an effort in leadership to completely disband the locals once and for all for good. And I feel like
I
the
would
members
say
of this
that there,
supporter group deserve to know that. And, I'm just, I'd never wanted to be on leadership, right? I'd said it a million times. I like being independent. I'm a professional journalist. I like transparency. I'm an elected person in this organization. I don't feel comfortable like, keeping things from the members that I think they have a right to know. So um, they should know that there is an effort to completely disband the locals once and for all for good. I don't know if it's popular. I don't know how many members would get behind this or support that, but what would it take for the locals to completely disband, like procedurally? Like, is that a matter of like leadership just voting and saying we're out of here? Does it have to go before our members? I mean, our members voted leadership in. Does this go to a vote before members? What are our rules here?
it technically does not have to go to membership. Um, Leadership can, someone, well, I guess the way we have it right now is either someone from the executive council could call a special meeting, or 4 members of the council could call a special meeting and bring that up for a vote. And if it was um, I have to double check on the bylaws. I can't remember if it's a simple majority. I think it needs to be a super majority, but I'd have to double check on that. Um, but they could bring it to a vote of leadership and make that decision on behalf of all the members. Yes,
Huh. So,
procedurally, that's what could happen.
if you're a member of the locals watching the stream, listening to this podcast, and you have thoughts about this or feelings about this, my suggestion would be maybe let people in leadership know how you feel about it soon, because they're trying to get this done very soon. There is an effort right now uh, to blow up the supporter group. I'm against it, clearly. And, well, I host a podcast, so I can get on my bully pulpit and express that opinion. But yeah, I think members should absolutely know that um, you know the future of the supporter group is uh, up for debate right now, and precariously
Well, I would say
so.
they're not up for a debate. There is a debate.
Yes, yeah, there we go.
If we want to be truly fair and be as clear as possible, that debate is happening. Yes.
Huh. Yeah, that makes me sad that this SG was started 4 5 years ago. Obviously to support San Diego Loyal. Um, it's been shepherded basically by roughly the same people in leadership in that time until I think December is when we had the big kind of electoral shift and restructuring to pivot toward SDFC. Some members of leadership left at that time. New members came on, myself included, kind of to help get us and guide us to this 2.0 SDFC supporter group, a process that hasn't always been smooth. And, um, for myriad of reasons, I don't want to assume. I don't know. I'm not in anybody's head. I don't know what people are thinking, why they do things that they do. But, um, you know, it has been not easy at times to, get things done, right? And we've seen some of this bubble up in other avenues, be it how we work on the Alliance Council, or now with this debate about whether or not all of this work is for nothing. Um, so, okay, what do you see happening? The most important question, of course, is the Hell is Chrome podcast. We are a Bum TV production, right? Bum is intellectual property of the locals. Um, the YouTube channel, like logistically, like physically, this show, which I mean, I'm a fan of because I get to get on here for like an hour every week and just run my mouth. Uh, what what are the options for this show?
Uh, well, I'm not sure what the options necessarily would be under the locals. I think there still could be a lot of options, but I again, in the being transparent, because Andrew and I have talked about this, we have plans to take this show independent out from under the umbrella of the locals. Um, might happen as early as next week. So this might be the last official Bum TV version of this show, but also looking to partly safeguard the podcast and what we're doing, um, in case people decide to do the nuclear option on the locals. So
So I
we'd
want
like to keep doing the podcast.
I don't
Yeah,
want.
go ahead, because I've been kind of dancing around the issue, and you've kind of forced it to
Well,
the.
I don't want people to think that pivoting the podcast is because of this. This is actually something we've been talking about doing.
It is something we've been talking about,
And
yes.
the reason is that, you know, now that the locals are one of 7 supporter groups and more coming, um, there's just a bigger community, a more diverse community that I think we should be talking to. Like, this shouldn't just be the locals uh, show, locals stream, locals podcast. Like, this show should appeal to members of Riptides. It should appeal to members of Chavos and Dago Boys. Like, the stuff that we've been talking about for like the last 2 months, all of it is relative to their endeavors as supporters. And so in kind of the spirit of, the supporter culture, this being a supporters podcast, um we should not limit ourselves in just being the locals supporter group podcast. This show should be about the entire supporter section and everything going on in this community. It kind of opens up a whole lot of possibilities here where we can bring on members of the other groups, leadership from the other groups. What is your
Sure.
story? Why this group? What does your group stand for? Why did you want to start your own group? Like, I think some really fascinating conversations that would really, serve the entire supporter section, not just the supporter section, but any SDFC fan, any person planning to go to the
Right.
games. They're going to look over at this section and wonder what the hell is going on over there. Uh, there's different groups, but they're one group, but they have different flags and these songs. Like, how do they pick up with this tifo that went up was incredible. How did this happen? And like, there's really not a media product out there to tell that story, right? Like the UT
Right.
is going to do stories about the soccer, what's on the soccer field. The ESPN is going to do stories about what's on the soccer field, right? For the most part, they'll do a feature here and there about supporters, but they are day in day out going to focus on the sport, right? We're not going to do that. First of all, I know fuck all about soccer. I mean, I know I know the ball goes in net good, right? I know that. But y'all, and if you've been listening, I mostly don't really know what I'm talking about there. But like, I do know the supporter section, and I do know a lot of the kind of the guiding philosophies and overarching like purpose, right? So I think helping explain supporters culture and the different groups to a broader audience is something that we can do and we can do reasonably well. So I'm actually excited to do this. It just so happens that right now there's another situation in flux. So maybe we're announcing it and doing it earlier than we would have otherwise. But this was always something that was going to happen.
Yeah, to be fair, yes, we have been talking about it quite a bit, pretty much this entire calendar year, and especially with the alliance coming on and having a little bit more freedom to talk about all of those things and bring on, not that we can't bring on people from other supporter groups, but this is, a local specific podcast and always has been. Um, but frankly, for me personally, it has been a difficult podcast to do at times for the self censorship and other things going on. It would be, um, you know, nice to have a little more independence and a little more freedom of being able to talk about
Are you
things
saying you've
and
gotten in
important
trouble for
issues.
stuff we've talked about on this show? I'll leave that as a
I would
rhetorical
say
question.
routinely people are unhappy with what we say on the show.
Well, they're gonna
So
love us today. That's fine.
yeah, that's I'm but I agree with you. There are, because I think both of us have been torn at different times throughout this calendar year of we do a podcast, it's for the locals, and trying to walk that fine line between discussions that are happening in leadership and being sensitive to those, but also at the same time understanding an obligation you have to membership and trying to walk that tightrope that I find is getting more and more difficult, because anybody who knows me and anybody in leadership, I'm sure, can tell you I'm the big one always pushing for transparency. Um, so to kind of, I don't know, not be as transparent as I would like has been a challenge, and try to accommodate other people's wishes, even when I think the better course of action is to inform our members of things, has been a a challenging thing for me, and I don't like it, you know. And
Well,
this is part of all this conversation about going independent.
let's the great Festivus tradition, the airing of grievances. We can gather around the Festivus pole and do all of that. Not really grievances. I'm not being once again. I am not being fair here. But what do members need to know right now? Are we still accepting new members? Are we can a person go on the website and enroll as a member of the locals right now?
I do not know the exact answer to that. That would be probably a question for our president, Steve Brokoff, or our membership person, Tay. Um, but we probably, again, without getting into too much into the weeds of things, as we're trying to look at our transition and things we're doing, we probably should put a halt to our memberships, um, and kind of a halt to the way we are doing business right now under this old California Mutual benefit. Not old, it's our current California Mutual benefit situation. But if we are going to make that pivot and switch, then like we need to start transitioning out of this
And
California
to be
Mutual
clear, this is
benefit
so that we are in
corporation.
compliance with state law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So to be accepting money for new memberships or selling merch right now, we would be in violation of the law?
Yes.
Okay. So just want to make that clear to members about why maybe um, you won't be able to purchase anything in the immediate time while this pivot occurs, and that is because um, the locals are not legally allowed to continue operating as a mutual benefit corporation under state law. And this is something that we did not know until now. So hence the kind of the sudden halt to these activities. So I hope that the the back end, the website administration is following the lead here and ceasing those operations in the interest of complying with the law. All right, I thought you had something
I'm
else
not
for me
sure
there.
what to add there.
Okay.
You put me on the spot, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not going to lie. But yes, they should be closed right now.
Well, that's too bad, but I actually think that it is a better prospect for us to exist as and whatever structure we want to do underneath the alliance. It sounds like a much easier road for us. What does doing that, reorganizing as underneath the larger alliance structure, what benefits does that provide the locals as an entity?
Well, the benefits would be for any SG that's part of it. This is why it's attractive to the other SGs as well, is it removes the legal and fiscal headache from the individual SG, and it gets passed on to the alliance or the union, whatever the incorporating umbrella organization is. And then you have one governance set of people, however you want to look at it, that are responsible for ensuring those legal and fiscal requirements are met for everything that falls underneath it. And it is, since it's all basically the same thing that you'd be doing for each of the 7 SGs if they did it individually, it's actually significantly easier because you can have fewer people to do it for one organization with each SG operating, I'll say independently underneath, but I'll make a counter to what we just said in terms of benefits. But the benefits clearly are the legal and fiscal headache, and it allows the individual SG to focus more on the fun stuff then. If you look at it from a different lens, which I would say some of our leadership do, and you look at our motto, forever loyal, owned by no one, the just, I think, even entertaining the idea of possibly being under an umbrella where the alliance would control the intake of the money and then the distribution, I guess, of the money. But we could still do, like, you could affiliate with the locals or Chavos or any group, and they still could fulfill the merch package. Like, you'd be under the alliance, but you sign up with the locals, you still get the locals merch package, and possibly even buy one of the other merch packages if you want. Like,
Which
there's a
I
lot
think
of
for the majority of
flexibility.
members, that is how they interact with the group, right? Like,
I would say yes. We're getting into the weeds of legal and fiscal issues,
mhm.
but I think if you look at it from a different lens, there are some people who feel very strongly that, that loses some, or we lose some of our independence if we join an alliance. And I would say, yes, that's kind of the nature of becoming part of an alliance or a union. Everybody's got to cooperate and work together. So if you don't want to do that and you want to control your own money and your own destination, then you need to forge a path on your own,
Well,
which
but
means you may not be able to get the same benefits as everybody else.
where has controlling our own money gotten us, John?
Oh, I'm not sure I'm comfortable answering that question
Okay,
other than not in a spot where we shouldn't be selling any more memberships right now.
so
I'll
I
say
think
that.
it because yeah, there may be some issues getting into specifics there, but I will say that it was our financial director that resigned today.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so important information for members to know: the independence, quote unquote, independence of the group could be uh, called into question should we go under this umbrella group. At the same time, as an independent group, been some problems in that we can't actually legally function as a group right now. So I think weighing those options, you can kind of see where that it kind of creates a space to drive a truck through and just say, let's blow the whole thing up and not do it anymore. I think that's a little bit of maybe context for members to understand why there might be some conversations about that being a preferable option to either one.
Right. And it's, I think that goes back to what we talked about earlier. There are conversations happening right now as to how we handle this situation, especially with
Sure,
the new
sure.
information that was explained, I guess, is better than shared when talking with the tax consultant last night of where we are and a potential path forward if we stay independent and a potential path forward if we stop being a California Mutual Benefit Corporation and move under the umbrella of the union like everybody else.
Now, in doing so, would we preserve our standing and position on the Alliance Council? Right now, we have 2 seats, 2 of the 14 seats. We are an equal party in the Alliance. Um, how important is it for us to have a seat at that table, in your opinion, because you sit in one of them?
I would say that um, if we go the route by ourselves, then I think by that very definition means we pull out of the Alliance Council. So we would not have a seat at the table for any of those conversations. I mean, again, that's that extreme view if we keep forging our own path. If
Which, like we've
we
said, we can't legally do right now.
Right.
Okay.
Technically we can't legally do as
Okay.
well.
Just I want to keep reiterating that point because I think it's an important one that gets kind of swept aside in these discussions sometimes. The fact that there are literally constraints to the status quo.
Right. And then, you know, disbanding the locals altogether obviously means you would not have a seat at the table because there are no more locals. And I want to be clear that not being incorporated under state law as a California Mutual Benefit Corporation, kind of dissolving that and then shifting under the umbrella of the union, and that incorporation is a potential pathway. And that's different than a conversation that's happening about just disbanding the locals altogether. They just cease to exist, right? So there are two parts. Like, you could dissolve the corporation portion of it and move under the umbrella of a different corporation and still be the locals, or you disband the locals completely, right? And those are conversations that are happening.
Huh. Well, I think that's a lot of information for people to think about and consider. I think it's important information for members to know. Um, this year, before we have to stop accepting memberships, we have more than 200 people who have signed up and signed on to be a member of this group during a transition year when there is actually no games and no soccer to go to. The way I look at that, that is a huge vote of confidence from people who like what this community does. They believe in what this group stands for. Um, we have been the loudest voice in the soccer community for social justice, LGBTQ plus rights, um, massive Black Lives Matter banner hung at every single Loyal home match. We have been the loudest voice in the room when it comes to those type of values being part of supporter identity and the identity of the supporter section. Now, I'm not saying that other supporter groups don't feel the same way about these issues, but this group has been kind of the loudest about making sure that that is kind of a tent pole for which the supporter section is built upon, right? So that means a lot to people. We heard it a lot whenever we were doing all of our in memoriams of the San Diego Loyal. The incident with Colin Martin and
Right.
The club, and there was another incident I think with Elijah.
Right.
The club taking these stands was something that galvanized this community behind that club. And I think that is something that a lot of people in the locals, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know what is happening inside people's heads, but it would be very, I think, easy. It's not a giant leap to think that that part of the culture and community we've built is a big part of the reason why people signed up and renewed memberships when there's no games to go to. Kind of a vote of confidence to keep going. And, um, I feel like we owe it to these people to not just be transparent and honest with them about what's happening in the organization, but also the options on the table, because none of these things have been decided. It is still up for debate. It is being debated right now. There are going to be meetings. I think there's an informal group phone call tomorrow. There is an effort to have a emergency meeting of the leadership council. Should we decide to have that emergency meeting, it will be announced to the membership in accordance with the bylaws and I think the
Right.
rules, the Robert's rules, right? So, if anybody's ever curious, Robert's Rules of Order, it's a very painful process, but it governs the way we do business, and it is very clear about you know how things happen. And so, uh, should there be a special meeting of the leadership council, the membership would be made aware um, ahead of time. I think 48 hours.
There has to be a minimum 48 hours per our bylaws, yeah. And
And
the
right,
the notification does not need to go out in email or anything. Discord is fine. That's why we keep telling people to make sure you're in Discord. to get that. If you want to make sure you get the latest and most important information, that electronic communication of that special meeting would happen in Discord.
Okay, so very clear. There are things to consider. There are things that our members, in my opinion, need to engage with, be it on Discord, in the Facebook group, which I know is on live support right now. I'm trying. I posted in there last week. Um, but, this is something, that me personally, I need member support on, right? Because I'm, I'm part of leadership still for now. And in that role, I see myself as fighting for members. And um, without going into too much detail, I've been fighting. So, um, if it's all for naught and people don't care, and I am going against member wishes, let me know, and I'd be happy to stop that fight, because it's draining. But in the time being, that's what's going on. That's what I'm doing. I believe the group should continue. I believe that we should, you know, dissolve the mutual benefit corporation and reorganize under the alliance. That is straightforward. It's simple. It it solves a lot of the issues that John and I have discussed, and it allows you, the members, to continue being locals, which I think is what you want. um, if you want to join Riptides, I think you would have joined the Riptides, you know, and certainly people have, and that's fine, right? But for now, there are still people who want to be in locals. So, make your voices heard in Discord. Let leadership know where you're at. Let them know your thoughts about, are you happy with hearing some of this news for the first time? I think that as members, a member run organization, you have a right to know these things. And uh, I think there was some delay because we were waiting on clarity. We were waiting on advice
Definitely,
from
yes.
experts, which is why John and I, despite our proclivity for transparency, haven't delved too much into it, because we're waiting on guidance. Well, now we've got the guidance and it's clear. So when I know, that's, I try to be a trustworthy reporter, and I'm just reporting the facts here. But I also host a podcast, so I get to sprinkle in some opinion there as well.
Yeah, it's we have not done a survey of our members in a while, but the last time we did, as we pivoted in the winter, um, it was pretty clear where people wanted to go. And then as leadership, we made a public announcement of where we were going to support SDFC. And I don't know, we did the initial member signups. We were a little over 100. So we're over 200 now. So there's been 100 additional, maybe not quite 100, but close to 100 additional people who have signed up since then, knowing the direction we were headed. And I would have to say, since it's a podcast and opinion, I agree with Andrew. There is a relatively simple solution here that keeps us together as the locals. In terms of disbanding our California Mutual Benefit Corporation, the corporation portion of it, and then, just like nothing really changes from the users or the member standpoint. We just
Exactly.
move under the umbrella and someone else helps with the legal and fiscal portion of it. And I would agree. I think that is the simplest, most, from my opinion, the simplest, most straightforward solution to all of this. Every other pathway to me is a end to the locals. I just don't see how any of the others play out to a positive outcome, unless your positive outcome is no more locals, right? So I guess that could be the outcome that you want to see. So if that's the case, then there are a couple pathways for that. But if you want to see the locals continue and be a group and have influence in the alliance and the supporter section and still be around for match days, to me, it seems like there's a pretty straightforward solution to make that happen.
All right. Well, you heard it from John, the CEO of the Locals, by the way. This is, I've said it a couple times now. It's important. The life of the supporter group is on the line. I am not being, I do, John, I don't know, you may have noticed, I do kind of tend towards hyperbole at times.
Just every now and then.
I've been known to be hyperbolic.
This is not one of those times.
I am not being. This isn't hyperbole. The life of the supporter group is on the line, and it is in your hands as members to make your voices heard and save the supporter group from the forces that want to see it destroyed. We will be in Discord. We are always in Discord. You can always reach out to John or myself or any member of leadership through Discord. I think most people are on Facebook, but they're not like on Facebook. Like they have accounts, but they're not always there. But Discord's a great place to reach people and have these conversations. What are we looking ahead at, John? I know we've been going more than an hour, giving people a lot of things to digest, but there are some dates coming up that people should be aware of. We do have our regular leadership council meeting coming up in June. Has that been rescheduled because of a men's national team game, or what's happening with that?
There's been a request for that, but it hasn't been rescheduled at this time.
So that is a Wednesday, right? That is Wednesday.
I'm double checking. So Wednesday, June 12th is our scheduled next leadership meeting, unless there is a special meeting before that.
Okay, so that is 2 weeks time, unless.
Yes.
And I think a majority has to approve a special meeting. Special meeting will be announced in Discord, minimum 48 hours ahead of time. If that announcement does not come, then our next meeting is June 12th right now. If that schedule changes, it will also be announced in Discord. We will make sure of it. So 2 weeks right now, 2 weeks to save the locals. If you care, let us know. If you don't, then don't, and then we'll know. So we will be back next week. I think we'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week, but probably not in this spot.
Oh.
So we're going to have to communicate that.
Oh, man. So this is where you lose me, John. This is where I want to have another debate, but we don't need to do that right now. I don't want to make it harder for people to find us. But yeah, when we come back, we may have slightly tweaked the well, it's still going to be the same two dumbasses up here talking. Sorry, John. I didn't mean to throw you in there with me. Same dumbass and John talking. But broaden the scope a little bit, include all the SGs, include the whole section. I think people would enjoy that. These discussions about the Alliance have been some of the most engaged I've seen members this year. Talking about naming the Alliance, which we didn't even get to, John. It has been 1 hour and 9 minutes, and we did not even talk about the one thing that we said we had to talk about. And here I am trying to wrap the show, and I bring it up. So, gosh, I hate to do this to everybody because I really felt like I was vibing there, wrapping things up. I want to go eat dinner quickly. Let's catch everyone up. What's going on with naming the Alliance? Where are we? What happened? What's next?
The Alliance council met last week, the end of last week on Friday, to go through the selections by the different SGs to try to come up with a name for the alliance. Through a series of discussions and votes, got narrowed down to 3 options. And we're intentionally not sharing those right now because of those 3 options, there is a vetting process going on to double check trademark issues, other things to make sure before we announce a name that that name really can be used, and probably securing social media handles and other things. So
God, can you imagine announcing
we've
the
got
name and then like a week later being like, "Oh yeah, we heard from the lawyer. Actually, we can't name it that. We're going to be this
right,
instead." Oh my God, we'd
yeah.
look like such
So
clowns.
there, I'll say a decision was made. A vetting process is currently going on, and once we have clarity around those things, then an announcement will happen, but probably not a public. I mean, a big public announcement I wouldn't expect really till July. But I'm once we have some clarity, I'm sure the name will start getting out and between the SGs and members. It's not like it's meant to be a secret from everyone. It's just want to make sure that there's some vetting process that happens first, and then I'm sure the name will be shared, but then more like it's like when you have a grand opening for a store, but then you have a soft opening. Yeah, the
We'll
name's going to
do
be
we'll
out
do the
there
Instagram
before
soft
that.
launch of the new boyfriend. We'll soft launch the name, and then we'll do the hard launch at a later date. Yeah, it's exciting. Not trying to brag, but I do know what it is. I do know what the name is. Sorry, can't tell you. This is something that I can't be transparent about because of the reasons John just said. So I'm just going to kind of be like, I know, because finally I
Yeah.
know something. Remember before, John, on the pod, you would know things and I didn't, and I would be like, I don't know
Yeah.
things. Now I know. Oh, what a feeling. I like the name. I'm very excited. I think people are going to like it and they're going to get behind it. And it really captures everything that we've been trying to capture, everything that we talked about, about this supporter community is there. And I can't wait to share it with everybody. And yeah, it kills me that we can't say it, but we can't say it. But it's there. Hopefully, the vetting process, initial stages look good, promising. No
I would
hard
say
nose.
initial stages generally look good, but still some more things to check. So I don't want to. I guess again, my personality. I don't want to get too
We
excited
got to get it
for like this
lawyered,
is what we're
folks.
landing on until
We got to get it
and
lawyered, basically.
until we know some things for certain. Yeah.
All right.
Once we know some things for certain, I hope, as I've said all along, I don't care what the name is or what we're going to just as long as we own it and make it our own and make it something special. So I'll be excited once the vetting process is done. Then I'll be excited about it. Right now, it's
All right.
just like we're just waiting to tick boxes, and once the boxes are ticked, then we can start getting excited.
All right. So now the rundown is real. Check us out on Discord. Reach out to me. Reach out to John. We want to hear from you. Make your voice heard. Understand what the stakes are in all of this. I want to go forward as a local supporting SDFC. I think most of you do too, or you wouldn't be here. So if that's the case, make your voice heard. We're trying to do this thing, and they want to take it from you, and we're not going to let them. So uh, make your voice heard. And yeah, we will be back next week. Keep an eye in Discord. Should the stream location on YouTube have to change? I don't know. John says it does. I say it doesn't. John knows what he's talking about. I don't. Who's going to win? I don't know. But stay tuned in Discord. We'll see you all next week and have a lot more information for you about everything we've talked about. So until then, thanks so much.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.